Okay, hello and welcome to the Blueprint Review podcast, our monthly chat about a wide range of films, new or old, popular or obscure, focusing largely but not exclusively on physical media, much like the website itself. For the bulk of the show, we're each going to chat about a film or two that we've recently seen from our unwatched piles and our collections. But first, let's introduce ourselves. So I am David Brooke, a Blueprint Reviews editor. And with me today are a trio of writers for the site who regular listeners and viewers will already be familiar with. So today we have Mr. Leon Vegas and Mr. Andy Goulding.
Hello.
So yeah, there we have it. And so before we launch into our reviews, we're going to try something a little bit different this time. Leon suggested this just before recording, but I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good plan. And it is to discuss, because we always talk about our discs, our various Blu-rays and UHDs or whatever. So we thought we'd chat about briefly, I say briefly, but nothing's ever brief in this show. But we thought we'd chat about some of the recent purchases that we've made. I'll kick things off. It made me realize doing this. I realized I've spent way too much money this month. Although, to be fair, some of these bulk buys that I'd ordered previously from like America that just took a while to come, and they all kind of came in 1 month. So I've had a bit of a bonanza this month. The first of all, just to make Leon jealous. I have the Game of Clones. I'm very happy.
It looks so good.
It's so beautiful. I love box sets. I must admit, I mean, I tend to wait for things to go on sale. I don't do a lot of pre-ordering and things. I'm cheap. I like to get things with it. But this, I couldn't resist. I knew that it'd probably sell out anyway. Yeah. And plus, the limited edition came with 2 extra movies. I'm like, yeah. So, it's beautiful. So yeah, what is it? 14 Bruce exploitation films, the documentary Enter the Clones of Bruce, 100-page book. It all looks stunning, and yeah, I haven't dug into it yet, but I am very much looking forward to that. So that is my happiest purchase of the month.
I've got to ask, if you watch all the films, are we going to get a Blueprint review?
It's probably going to take me a while to get through it, but possibly. Yeah, we'll see. Although we'll chat about something that like at the end of the show that well, I don't think I'll get through that, to be fair, but there might be something interesting next month.
Ooh,
cool. Right, what else did I pick up? I also received, this is an American order that took a while to come, and it's finally come, MVD. I've only discovered MVD recently, but they have some very good sales and some really interesting titles, and they sell some stuff from other labels as well. So it's, I must admit, actually, the purchases this time, none of them are actually MVD. Some of them are a bit, people are going to judge me. Maybe I can't even show them. But yeah, I'll show the classier ones first. I've got 2 sets of retro serials. So yeah, The Vanishing Shadow, which looks interesting, and some kind of crime thriller. Gangbusters, another kind of crime one. These are actually, they're not silent serials though. These are kind of the latest serials. I believe they're from the 40s. So we have sound and all this kind of stuff. It's kind of a precursor to TV shows, really. It's just like loads of cliffhangers. This one, Vanishing Shadow, has a robot on the front, as well as some kind of gangsters with guns and things. So that looks crazy. And yeah, it should be fun. And then, please don't judge, I bought some sleazy Nikatsu.
Yes.
Very, very sleazy.
Are you going to be able to say the titles of these
films? I'm afraid I don't know about these. Are not too bad, actually. Yeah, because some of the titles are horrific.
So bad.
The thing is with these films, it's I've not watched many of them, but they've got a reputation. They kind of through the 70s. Nikatsu made these kind of raunchy, erotic kind of movies.
Yes.
But they were really good. They were the breeding ground for a lot of the up and coming directors who would go on to be kind of big name directors in Japan. And these directors, and not all of them, I mean, they were probably made some trash too, but if you find the right titles, they're really well directed films. They're really beautiful looking films. They're quite interesting films. You've just got to get past the fact that I think they had it. I think Nikatsu said, "Okay, you can do what you want with these films," because they were struggling in the 70s. That's why they made them, because they knew people would watch them. It was just their only way of making money at this time. So they just let these directors have free rein. Says, "Right, cool. Here's make sure there's a sex scene every 10 minutes and you're all right. So it's so they're interesting films. Yes, they're sleazy. Yes, I shouldn't be admitting that I bought these films on the internet, but I don't care. But
I loved your use. I loved your use of the phrase "breeding ground."
Oh, yeah.
Oh no!
I didn't think that was maybe the wrong choice.
I was looking around. I was going to ask super quick because you're talking about all of the films. Have you ever seen Anti-Porno by
Sono.
Sion Sono? That's it. Yeah,
because
this is about making one of those like pink movies and everything.
Yeah.
Like the what is it? Nikatsu?
Roman pornos, I think.
Roman pornos. That's it. Yeah.
Films, yeah.
Yeah. It's about the like making of one. This is a really, really good film. I don't know if this disc is even in print anymore. It's the Third Window Films release, and yeah, this is a really, really good watch, especially if you're interested in that kind of genre.
I do own that one as well. But yeah, I like I do like the director, although I think he's been in some.
Yes,
dodgy,
I've heard some.
He's had some. Yeah, it's a bit problematic these days, but he has made some very good films.
Yeah, Love Exposure is amazing.
But I say this segment's gonna go on way too long. I'll be quick. The other one I bought, Running Time, which is like it's a Bruce Campbell starring kind of low budget indie noir film, which sounded really cool. It's supposed to be quite good. And then 2 more super trashy films, 2 reportedly horrendous films, but they should be fun. Manos, The Hands of Fate.
Yes!
Oh, goodness me.
My god.
The creeping terror, but also the creep behind the camera, which is like a kind of fictionalized retelling of the guy who directed the film. He's supposed to be a bit messed up, and they made a film about him. So yeah, they've got loads of extra features. So I thought the films are terrible, but I'm hoping they'll be enjoyably bad. And with the extra features, I think it'll just make it fun in general. Let's quickly. Oh, this is gonna take way too long. I'm just going to quickly show these, and I also hit another American one that showed up. These are all American purchases that all showed up at the same time. Is Vinegar Syndrome. I picked up an Agfa Kung Fu one, which looks awesome. Sheldon Invincibles and 7-1 with somebody fighting a gorilla. I don't know what's going on there. I bought this trio of Mexican Gothic films from Carlos Enrique Taboada, which the reviews just sounded really good and it looked kind of cool. So that's interesting. And then The Telephone Book, which is supposed to be very good. It's quite an unusual film from 1971. And then the other ones are all. I talked about this. Was it last show or the other show before about Deaf Crocodile?
Yes, I actually I'm not going to showcase all of my Vinegar Syndrome releases that I ordered because I had like 17 titles. I did a video on YouTube about it, but I picked up a handful of Deaf Crocodile titles, and you might have picked up some of the same ones.
Yeah,
they had all the like $10 ones, like the $10 ones.
There were some really cheap ones, but because I was really impressed by that film I saw last time.
Yes,
and I know they do a lot of interesting animated films and just more unusual stuff that you don't get on other labels, so I couldn't resist because they're really cheap. So yeah, I've got Time of Roses.
Yes.
Is that the Finnish one? I think that's a Finnish film, which sounded bizarre. Benny's Bathtub.
Oh, I'm really excited to check this one out. Yeah, no, I grabbed that too.
It's also got 3 like TV episodes on there.
Like a Danish TV show.
Yeah. So that sounded well up my street. The Assassin and Tsar.
Malcolm McDowell, right?
Yeah, that was cool.
That one sounds really interesting because have you taken a look at that disc and how it has 2 versions of the film, but they're kind of like completely different like versions because it's in English. It was like dubbed in English and like post-synced like all films from that era. Yeah. But there's also like a Russian language version. But when you read the booklet inside, it actually says all of the Russian language footage was shot separately, so they're basically 2 different films. And I'm like, that's interesting.
Like in the kind of silent era and stuff, they used to. Well, not. I think it wasn't silent, but yeah, in the old days they used to do that just purely to have 2 prints to have centered in places. But the other one is Kinzaza.
Oh, I didn't pick that one up.
Well, what happened with I was a bit naughty with this one, and Vinegar Syndrome were very nice to me about this one. This wasn't on the. What was the original sale that I got these from? It's the
Halfway to Black Friday?
Something like that. And but they had a partner sale afterwards.
Yes.
And because mine hadn't been dispatched yet, I bought this because I really wanted this. I've heard this is very good. And I I tried to add it on to my order because usually you can add it on so that you'd have to pay postage because it costs so much to post in America. That's why I buy in bulk from Americans. It costs but because I couldn't get the code to work, but like one lady from Vinegar Syndrome got back to me and said, "Oh yeah, we'll try and sort it out. Can you give us some details?" So I gave some details, but then someone else replied, "says Oh no, we can't do that because it's on a different sale. We only do it if it's on the same sale." I said, "Oh all right." But I said, "Oh, I apologized and said like, oh, I'm sorry, but the other person seemed to think I could do it." But then they got back to me and says, "Oh, if they said he could do it, then we should probably do it." So they let me add it onto the order.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then the other one was Solomon King, a bit of blaxploitation. So
hell yeah.
Cool. But yeah, there are more things I could buy, but nothing else. Those are the more interesting, unusual ones, and so I'll stop there. Leon, do you want to?
No, let Andy go first.
Okay.
I know I'm going to be talking forever. Andy, you go first.
Okay, well, I've only got 3, so this is going to take quite so long. It was my birthday.
Orders from America or Australia then.
No, these are all, I'll get through these quickly. It's my birthday at the beginning of this month, so these are all things I got for my birthday.
Oh, happy belated birthday.
Thank you. The belated one, and we did an early one. The first one I got is Gold Diggers of 1933, which is one of my absolute favourite musicals. It's an old Busby Berkeley one. It's one of these films where there's sort of the plot is just sort of negligible, but all the dance routines, everything are amazing, and it's got a real kind of it's got a real sort of sour edge to it because it's all about the Depression. So the opening number in it is "We're in the Money," but it's in a very kind of a tongue-in-cheek way.
Yeah.
I got this, which is an old western called Rawhide. It's nothing to do with the Clint Eastwood thing or what the Blues Brothers sing about, but it's an old one by Tyrone Power and Susan Hayward, and I saw this on TV years ago, just thinking, oh, it'll be a good way to kill afternoon, and it's really, really good from what I remember. It's really kind of tight and sort of a bit noirish. It's all set in this like one little space. So I'm looking forward to watching that one again.
I've picked that up actually. Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but I've picked it up. I've heard good things about it too. So.
Yeah, it's really good. I think you'll really enjoy it, David. And then the last one is Ongaku Our Sound, which is a Japanese animation about these 3 sort of delinquents.
Nice.
I bought that recently too.
Yeah, I have seen it before, and it is really good. So it's about sort of these 3 delinquents who have no musical talent but decide to start a band together, and it's very. I think it was mostly animated by one person, and it's
wow. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's I'd really recommend trying that one out.
Awesome.
No, that's all mine.
Awesome. Cool. I'll be quick. I have more titles. I just picked out a selection because I also went a bit crazy with like US imports, and I picked up quite a handful of the titles that you picked up as well, David, as well as some others off the top of my shelf. The 11th Commandment was one of them. Last Gasp with Robert Patrick. I'm just looking at the shelf now. Oh, actually, I have one that I would like to show that I think you've covered, and I should have picked this out. So let me grab it off the. Oh my god, just like that. I picked up Once Upon a Time in Uganda.
Oh yeah, cool.
I'm so excited to see this. I've seen Who Killed Captain Alex, and it's amazing. And Wakaliwood features are incredible, so I can't wait to check this out. For those of you who don't know, Wakaliwood is essentially like a no-budget kind of production company. They make their films for like, how much was Who Killed Captain Alex? Like a budget of like
20 quid or something.
Yeah, it was so low. But like, they have so much passion and energy behind them, and you can tell that their love for like action films, of like especially like the big American action films like Rambo and all that stuff, just really, really like it's a huge inspiration for them. But they're also kind of like committed to doing these like insane stunts and just like really dangerous like things on camera. So as soon as I saw that there was the documentary, and I think this is already going out of print and it's like a relatively new release, so I was I'm picking that up because I do not want to miss out on like grabbing this.
That's the thing, that because the films at first glance, if you watch them without knowing the story behind them, you'll probably think, what is this? This is stupid. But it's crazy. I mean, they're literally made in the slums in Uganda, and you see the footage, like some of the films he's made were lost because they don't get regular constant power. Like they keep having power cuts, so his hard disks would just die, and he'd lose all his footage and stuff. It's just crazy. And the special feat, I can remember the Agfa one, the 101.
Yeah, I've got
the
that
special feats and that amazing, and they're actually quite moving.
So many.
Yeah, they're so inspiring and so moving just to see what they did and made these just with spit and boot polish. It's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I'm always trying to support them.
I love those guys. I can't wait to see it. They've got, I think they released a film at a festival a few years ago, but that doesn't have any like physical distro yet. But I really hope it gets one soon because those guys are great.
I actually bought. You can buy some directs from them. I actually bought just to support them.
I might need to do that.
Got one of it. You get but they literally get them, and it's just a hand burnt like disc just scribbled on. But they're throwing like all these random stickers and things, and it's just crazy.
That's amazing. I need to support these guys. I love them. Okay, I've got the pile here. Let's go through these. One of these titles, if we have like 2 picks in terms of like the films we talk about later, I might actually discuss one of these. So spoiler alert potentially. But I'll quickly just go through what I picked up today. I went to HMV and bought a handful of titles. I bought First Blood on 4K because it's a classic, and in my opinion, the only good Rambo film. That might be controversial, but I think this is like the only good one, and then they all go downhill after this.
It's fair enough. It's fair enough. It is definitely the classiest film.
Yes.
The others are fun, but the first one is actually genuinely quite a really good film.
That's basically how I feel. Yeah, it's like the others. They have their moments, but I love how reserved this one is, and it's like it's an actual film.
Yeah. It's quite bleak, and that like at the end, he like breaks down and stuff. It's quite it's a proper kind of anti-Vietnam sort of film. It's
one of Stallone's better performances, I think. Like a great film. I haven't seen it on 4K, and I think it was like $9.99 with any purchase, and I was like, for that price, I'll upgrade for that. Lisa Frankenstein, which I recently covered on the site. I love this film. One of my favorites of 2024. Yeah, it is this year, 2024. And again, I loved the disc like when I reviewed it for the site and everything, and I saw that they had this released with the like nice little slip cover, and it was like £20. I was like, you know what, I'll just buy it. I want to support the film, and I'm kind of nervous that because this bombed so hard at the box office, people are not going to be like buying it on like Blu-ray 4K. And I'm really impressed with what Medium Rare are doing lately, because they seem to be grabbing these Universal titles that aren't getting 4Ks anywhere else in the world, like Cocaine Bear, Night Swim, even I don't think this was Medium Rare. I think the other one was Dazzler, but they released my favorite film, The Holdovers, on 4K, and that doesn't have a 4K anywhere else in the world. So I kind of want to do my part to just support these kind of like weird like early 4K releases, or potentially only 4K releases some of these indie films are getting. And it's a great film too, and a really good disc. So I'm glad I got that. I got Drive Away Dolls, which have either of you seen Drive Away Dolls?
No, I really want to see it. Yeah, but I just didn't get around to it.
It's so much fun. This was I saw this in HMV. I was like, this is a really weird package. Yeah, it's so Universal have done a weird Blu-ray and DVD combo pack that's also like a collector's edition. It has an art book, it has some art cards, and like this really nice slipcase and everything. And again, this is another one that kind of bombed at the box office, didn't make any money, and I had a blast when I checked it out. So I was like, you know what, I'll pick it up, 20 quid. I don't know how the Blu-ray looks yet, but I'm excited to see what that looks like, because it's a very fun film. It's really inspired by like Russ Meyer films and everything. So if you're a fan of like Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, or why am I forgetting the big one? Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. If you're a fan of either of those two, you'll have a good blast with that. And I think Ethan Cohen's directing like a trilogy of these films, and he's calling them like the Lesbian Road Trip Trilogy, which I'm like, that sounds fun. So I'm excited to check out the next film whenever that comes out.
Although if that bombed, it might not happen, will it?
Yeah, I hope it does. I really hope it does. One from the Heart. Francis Ford Coppola joined. I almost picked this up when it first came out, but it was like £28 for the 4K, and I was like, that's a bit steep. But they added it to the 2 for £30 deal, and I was like, for that £15, I'll pay it. And it's a 4-disc release as well.
It looks stunning. That's how I reviewed the Blu-ray, and but the Blu-ray looks stunning, so the 4K is gonna look insane.
The 4K looks so good. I actually watched it just a little bit ago. Like as soon as I got home, I was like, I really want to see this. I'm trying to catch up on all of the a couple of films that I haven't seen yet. This was my 10th film I've seen from him, but I still have like a ways to go in terms of all of his other features. He's made so many films.
As I said, I didn't think he's not made that many though. But yeah, I guess
like,
he's been around a long time. I guess he's made more than I think.
Because the big ones that I want to see The Outsiders. I want to see Twix, which he did a few years ago.
Yeah.
I want to see Dementia 13, which I actually have his like early Roger Corman film that he directed. But he's got so many, and I want to try and catch up before Megalopolis comes out because that sounds interesting.
Yeah, I want to do that.
But yeah, no, a really, really great disc, and it just looks absolutely packed with extras. I remember reading your review around the time it came out. I wanted to ask, which cut of the film did you watch? Because I forgot which version.
I think I watched the new one, the whatever it's called.
Yeah, the like reprise cut, reprise cut.
Like that. Yeah.
Because I checked out the 82 cut because I'd never seen the film before, and I was like, that's probably the best place to start. And I know his re-edits are kind of controversial for good reason most of the time. Like Apocalypse Now might be one of the greatest motion pictures ever made, but Apocalypse Now Redux is one of the most baffling features I've ever seen. I do not like Redux, so I wanted to go with the theatrical cut just on the off chance that he's tinkered with it too much. But from all accounts, you said it's a pretty good like cut of the film.
Well, I don't know the other cut. I've only seen that, so
okay.
Compare it to. No, I'd not seen it before. No, it was the first time I saw it.
Oh,
but I liked it a lot. I think. Well, I had a little bit of a problem with this kind of central relationship, but at first, whilst I was watching it, I was thinking, "Hang on, are we supposed to root for these people?" Because the woman is I can't remember the names. The woman's very
Franny.
Yeah, Fran. Like she's you can be quite sympathetic towards her, but the guy I just found was a bit of an asshole.
Oh, he's an ass. Yeah.
But I think that's kind of the point. I think and I don't want to spoil the film, but the way it turns out, at first I was thinking, I wasn't sure about how I should take that ending, but then the more you think about it, it's like, well, I think it is supposed to be a bit of a bittersweet kind of thing, and if you can accept that and go along with it, then it's just stunning. I feel like it's stunningly well made. Yes. Like it's really interesting film. So I enjoyed it quite a lot.
I'm always impressed whenever I check out his films because whenever I check actually I take that back. I watched Jack for the first time recently. No, I'm not always impressed. I'm mostly.
He's usually other than that. I mean, he's an ambitious filmmaker. His films are worth watching. They're interesting, even if they don't always work. But for me, he did have a run of films that are just all in like up there, like all-time favorites. I know. I don't think Andy agrees totally on some of those, but no, I don't know if they're all necessarily right next to each other. But for me, Godfather, The Conversation, Godfather 2, Apocalypse Now. Those films are way up there for me.
Only Apocalypse Now that I'm not that keen.
Oh, okay.
The other three, I'm with you on that. And was the Rain People right before them as well? Because that's good as well.
I've not seen that one yet, but that's somewhere. Yeah, I think it's probably is just before those. Yeah.
Cool. I will say this is probably going to turn some heads, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think like. I don't really like the Godfather trilogy.
Quick, turn him off.
I'm sorry. Now, hear me out. I don't think The Godfather or The Godfather Part 2 are bad films. I think they are perfectly fine films. I'm just not like as like head over heels as most people are for them. But I will say I think The Godfather Part 3 is terrible.
It's not the best. I wouldn't go as far as to say terrible, but it's definitely a massive step down from the others. I can watch it, like I don't mind it. But it's definitely a huge step down from the others.
I watched it I watched it straight after the other two, so it probably makes it seem a lot worse if you do it that way.
That's how I did it when I watched the trilogy for the first time. I was like, okay, I'm not like huge on this trilogy, but okay, the first two films are very competent. They've got great performances, all of that stuff. And then Part 3 comes along, and I was like, oh no. But hey, Part 3 is better than Jack. I'll give it that. But yeah, no, great release. And then the last one from today, I picked up Ark of the Sun God, the 88 films Italian collection release. I haven't seen this. This is the only pickup that I hadn't seen. Well, One from the Heart as well, but I've checked that out now. And 88 films are always doing incredible work on their Blu-rays and 4Ks. And I think this is supposed to be like an outstanding disc. I have no idea about the film, but I do know it's directed by maybe my favorite filmmaker's name of all time, Antonio Margheriti or Margheriti. Like, that is an incredible name, and I know it's like referenced in Inglourious Bastards as well, which is great. And then I picked up a bunch of Vinegar Syndrome titles, but I'm just going to show off 3. I picked up the 2 titles from the new cinematography label by Justin the Liberty over at Vinegar Syndrome, and these are for American kind of independent, or not necessarily independent, but kind of under the radar films from like like a big filmmaker. So Red Rock West was one of them. Jack Nicholson's is it Down South? I think it is, or some Going South. Going South.
Oh,
that's
okay.
it. Yeah, that was one of them. And the 2 that I picked up were Paul Schrader's Touch, which is a film I've never even seen before, or even heard of, really. But I think this one's got Christopher Walken in, and almost every Paul Schrader film I've seen is, at the very least, interesting. Very similar to Coppola. He's just an interesting filmmaker. So I figured I'd pick this up. And then the one that I might touch on later, Abel Ferrara's Dangerous Game, or Abel Ferrara's Dangerous Game, which is... it's a film I wasn't necessarily huge on, but it kind of hasn't left my brain since I first watched it a couple of days ago. Like most of his films, I think if I ever had to do a list of like top 10, top 20 favorite directors, I think Ferrara would probably make my top 10. Like, he's an unbelievable filmmaker, and it's just cool to see more of his films that don't have like decent releases make the jump. And then finally, Vinegar Syndrome's Lost Picture Show.
Oh, I've got that.
Oh my god, it is a beautiful set. Have you dived into it at all yet?
No, surprise. I don't watch my films.
I when I picked this up, I was like, cool. 10 films that have never been released before, 10 films. And then I looked into the set. There's actually 12 films. So there's a short film from one of the directors on the first like collection of discs. But if I have to recommend anything to anybody who owns a set, and that includes you, David, on the first disc of the second collection, because the way it works is there's 10 features in here, and then there's like boxes for 5 other films on one side and boxes for the other 5 on the other side. Now, on the second collection, on disc 1, there is a feature-length documentary that Vinegar Syndrome conducted just for this release called Against the Grain, and it might be one of my favorite films of last year.
Oh, wow.
It is 75 minutes long and essentially covers the whole team at Vinegar Syndrome, as well as tons of other people talking about why film preservation is important, not just in terms of, giving them the snazzy physical media releases, but dives into everything the team at Vinegar Syndrome do. But there's also interviews from the heads of like Kino Lorber. There's David Gregory over at Severin. He's interviewed as well. And people who work, I forget the guy's name, but he's Sam Raimi's editor and he founded Grindhouse Releasing. Bob something. I'm forgetting the guy's name, but I know he founded Grindhouse, who released like the Beyond and Cannibal Holocaust in the States when they never had releases. And it's just kind of a in-depth look at what it takes to really restore some of these films, whether they're classy genre pictures or films that might not necessarily deserve the releases for questionable content or just like being downright like abhorrent pieces of media, but they kind of touch on why it's important to save these films just for the history of film and just like preserving media. It's an amazing documentary, and if you've got like 75 minutes spare, I can't recommend anything enough. It's an amazing film, and especially if you're interested in like the collection of home media and all of that stuff, and just like preserving all of these, like all of us, we've all spoke about films that like in our collection that I'm sure most people either wouldn't have heard of, or they're like, why does that have a Blu-ray? It kind of gives us like a bit of insight into why these have Blu-rays and why it's important that we preserve them, whether it's like a classy art house film or some Japanese porno. It's like
as I say, for me again, it's like you say, there's that story behind them, and they're interesting, even if they're not always great. Like, films don't all have to be perfect. It's sometimes there's enough there to make it interesting, worth a watch, even if it's not gonna win an Oscar or something every time or whatever. It's
absolutely,
definitely. I just love delving, watching anything really.
I'm the same way. Sorry if I went on for too long now.
No, don't worry. You probably didn't go as long as me. But don't worry. This podcast is all about just rambling about movies. But I think we should move on. So let's quickly go over what we're looking forward to. I think there might be some crossover anyway in this, so hopefully it won't take too long.
I think so.
There's two biggies for me, and then a couple of quick mini ones. The first biggie is Shorescape Volume 3.
Yes.
I love these sets. Yeah, so I've pre-ordered it already. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even have much money at the minute, and I'm just throwing it around. But I had to own it, and I know that the money Arrow don't take the money out until it's delivered. It's like, yeah, I'll be all right in a couple of months' time. It's like it doesn't come out until November. So yeah, I couldn't resist. Plus I had loads of store credit, so I could take some money off it. But yes, sure, it looks awesome. It's all this is it? I think it's purely a wuxia kind of swordplay films, which I love.
Yes.
So I was all out. I had to buy it. And I didn't have time to review it. I just knew it'd just take too long. Then the other big one has just been announced a couple of days ago, and that is, and forgive me because I speak French, I can't pronounce it at all, but it's Louis Fouillade. The complete crime serials. So this is a collection of. It's got 4 serials that were made between 1913 and 1918. This is a groundbreaking, really important early serials. You've got Le Judex. Again, I'm pronouncing these all wrong. Tichmin, or whatever it's called. I don't know how to pronounce that. What the other ones? The Fantomas and Les Vampires. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Is this the Eureka release?
Yes, Eureka release.
No,
annoyingly, really frustratingly, I bought 2 of the serials not that long ago on Blu-ray. But I still want the sex. It looks beautiful, and it's and I really want the other 2. That's the thing. So I'm desperately trying to sell the ones that I've bought, and then I can use that money to buy this set. But the problem is now that this set's been announced, no one's going to want to buy them. But they're really good. They're from Gaumont, so they're probably the same restorations. To be honest, they just don't have the same extras and things, and they're French. But they do have optional English subtitles. I think supposedly. Okay. If anyone wants to buy them, give me a call. But anyway, so yeah, that just looks great. I do like my early cinema, and those sound like loads of fun. So I want to pick up those. And the other quickies that I just want to mention is 88 Films continue to release loads of martial arts movies that I like, and there's quite a few coming up that look interesting. There's The Killer Mastermind, The Shadow Boxing, and Tai Chi Master. Oh no, I must mention one of the martial arts things from Eureka, which I'm really excited about. Oh no, a couple of them is the 2 Taoist Tales, and also the Champions. So more martial arts mayhem, but especially is it Taoist? I don't know. The Taoist Tales one, because I recently reviewed Miracle Fighters, and that was amazing. And this is again, it's not directed by Unru Ping, but it's still his family. His family made a lot of films together. The UN clan, they're all into filmmaking and martial arts choreography, and they did a lot of films together. And these are another 2 by the family. But like I haven't seen them, but they look like Miracle Fighters in that they're wildly imaginative, crazy, batshit crazy kind of films that throw everything at the wall. I really enjoy those types of films from Hong Kong, because they're just unlike anything you get over here. They're bonkers, they're full of martial arts, and it's very imaginative, crazy kind of martial arts. It's not just the usual bang bang bang, punch punch, slash slash, whatever. It's crazy. So yeah, I'm very, very, very looking forward to that too.
Awesome.
Andy, have you got any coming up?
Yeah, I've got a couple that I noticed the other day. There's a couple that are coming out in September, so it's a bit of a wait. One of them is the Michael Powell Early Works box set from the BFI. I've just recently reviewed all of Michael Powell's work for Blueprint Review, and there's a couple of these early ones are really quite good, and a couple of ones that I really liked are in there, as well as I noticed that Behind the Mask is in there, which was one of the ones that I couldn't actually get hold of a copy of to review. So it'd be good to finally put that one to bed. There's another one in September, The Lady is Willing, which is a film by Mitchell Leeson. And Mitchell Leeson is a really interesting director. He's got a lot of little gems. If you want like a classic Hollywood golden age gem, which is quite forgotten, Mitchell Leeson's got some fantastic ones. There's To Each His Own is one of my favorite golden age Hollywood films. There's Easy Living, which I actually just bought a copy of. Hasn't arrived yet, otherwise I would have held it up. But that's one of my favorite Jean Arthur films. I'm absolutely in love with Jean Arthur, so I love that. But yeah, this one's with Marlena Dietrich, who I love as well. So I'm looking forward to that. And the other
I
one
named down to review that, I'm afraid.
Oh yeah,
If I get too busy, I'll pass it on.
Yeah, I noticed it hadn't come up for review. And the other one is in July. It's the Peter Strickland Curzon collection. It's all of Peter Strickland's films. I absolutely love Barbarian Sound Studio. In Fabric was fantastic. Duke of Burgundy was one of my favorite films of that year, and it's got Flux Gourmet I saw and didn't know what to make of, so I'd love to revisit that. And it's also got Cattle and Vargo, which is his first film, so which has been harder to get hold of. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, those Curzon sets look really nice. I really want the Lars von Trier one, but it's a bit pricey for me right now. It's like £140 or something. But it has like 14, 15 of his films in. But no, those sets look so nice. And yeah, the Peter Strickland films I've seen, the first two you mentioned, Barbarian Sound Studio and In Fabric, they're both really, really great films. I had a blast with both of them. Well, saying a blast makes them sound like they're fun. They're not fun, but they're just really, really unique and like individual pieces of art that I absolutely loved.
I think they're quite fun in places. The guy reciting the stuff about the washing machines always makes me laugh out loud.
It just they get like progressively darker and darker as they go on, I should say. I think but yeah, no, they do have their moments. And yeah, Barbarian Sound Studio, it just kind of appeals to me. Like, oh yeah, when dubbing like one of these like Jello cinema films, I'm like, yeah, this is right up my alley.
Oh yeah, I love the dubbing scenes in that. Yeah, it's amazing use of sound and stuff in that film as well. Yeah, I adore that film. I haven't seen In Fabric yet, but I have seen Barbarian Sound Studio and Dukes of Burgundy, and love them both. I do have Cattle and Vargo actually. I've not watched it yet. Yeah,
awesome. Cool. I'll go through mine. I have a handful, but okay. All right, let's go through it. I'll just mention, Shore Scope Volume 3. I'm also super excited for that. That looks like an amazing set. The previous two sets, I'm still making my way through them. There are so many films, so many extras, but what I've seen from each of them are just like absolutely incredible. I really love the disc in Volume 2 that has, is it Mercenaries from Hong Kong and The Boxer's Omen? Like those two films are so out there for like Shaw joints, and I thought those were great. But yeah, the big one for me is I mean, I'm a huge defender of a lot of his more, I don't want to say underseen but underrated films, but Martin Scorsese's Bringing Out the Dead is getting not only a Blu-ray release but also a 4K release from Paramount, and that just kind of made my year, because like last year we got After Hours for the first time, and After Hours is my favorite Scorsese film, and Bringing Out the Dead is like top 5, top 4 even for me, maybe. I think that film's fantastic, so seeing that's getting a release, and the extras on it for just a standard, it is part of Paramount Presents line, but usually they don't go too crazy with extras. But on this, they have tons of archival extras that have never been seen before. So like on-set footage of like Ving Rhames and a couple of the other actors in the film kind of talking about like what's going on set. But they also have brand new interviews with like Robertson or Richard.
Oh, Robbie Robertson, yeah.
I forget the cinematographer guy.
No, sorry, I'm thinking of the musician guy. Sorry.
But I forget Richard Robinson. I forget the guy's name, but they got an interview with him. They've got a new interview with Martin Scorsese, a new interview with Nicolas Cage, a new interview with Paul Schrader, and I'm like, this is amazing. This is like what I don't even think Criterion would get that many like interviews. So I'm just beyond excited for that. I think that's going to be one of the titles I pre-order from the States, but I don't even pre-order that much anymore, but I need that because it's such a good film.
I remember it. I saw it years ago. I remember thinking it was great. I'm a bit of a John Goodman follower, and he's in it, isn't he? I think Joe would say, I remember watching it for him specifically and really enjoying it. So that's really interesting.
It's like one of Schrader's like darkest screenplays, which is so funny because so many of his films, his films are like miserable usually, but in particular, it's like it's one of my favorite Nicolas Cage performances. I'm probably the world's biggest defender of Cage. I think he might be the greatest living actor of all time. Like, I swear, I love the man dearly. I think he's amazing. But that is like one of the greatest performances I've ever seen from him. So, I'm so excited for that.
I have a weird sense of humor, but is it quite funny? I remember it being quite funny in a very dark way.
There's elements of the film that are funny, but what I most remember about the film is just like this, overwhelming sense of dread and just like he's like an insomniac who's like constantly overworking, and he's seeing these visions. And I guess you could kind of make it a bit like you could find some humor in like some of the sequences in the film. But I just picture that as like, this is like Scorsese's bleakest film. Oh no, Raging Bull exists, but that's also a Paul Schrader film.
Yeah.
Whenever those two work together, it's just like Taxi Driver, Last Temptation of Christ is amazing as well. But you know, I'm so excited for that. Now this one I think has been announced, but if not, I know it's leaked, so I don't know if I should say, but I'm gonna say it anyway because I'm beyond excited. Shout Factory are releasing Little Shop of Horrors on 4K, and which one? The musical one, yeah. I'm so excited for that release. I hope it has the director's cut on 4K because the director's cut is the best. In my opinion, that ending is so good. But yeah, no, I'm beyond excited for that.
It's one of my all-time favorites. That's well. And what's amazing, I've got my kids into it because at first I thought I'd be a bit old for them, but their school. Well, my eldest Taylor, their school put them on a school trip to see another school performing it. So she saw it and she was really excited. So I was like, "Oh, you've got to watch the film!" And it's like, we have the soundtrack on all the time and stuff. It's I love
so good. Seeing that make the jump, I'm like, this is perfect. I kind of hope that Arrow might get the rights now that they've got that like Warner Bros deal and everything. Maybe they get the UK rights or something. But oh god, Little Shop of Horrors is so good. I can't wait for that. I physically screamed when I saw it. I was like, yes! I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. Another title I physically screamed for, and this is for a very different reason. Todd Solondz's Happiness is
yeah. Leon, I think you beat me to reviewing this.
I was like, I need this. I need this. I need to talk about that film.
I would have reviewed it. I was all up for reviewing it, but my September is absolutely stacked, and I don't have like. Everybody should admit this on there, but there's a job I do that's it's quite easy. So I can do it, and I've done it for years and years and years. So I can kind of do other things whilst I'm there, and I write my reviews whilst I'm doing that job. But in September, it's not on for a month, and so I'm really struggling. So I'm having to give up so many good discs and Happiness I would have got. It's Happiness. I remember seeing that at cinema, and that was a disturbing cinema experience because we kind of knew what to expect, but it was like me, my brother, and a really good friend. Well, Jim, he writes the site. We went to see it together from what I remember. I think Jim's then girlfriend, now wife, I think might have been there, but I might be wrong. But that is a dark film, but it's still funny. It's funny, but it's
alarmingly funny.
But that was quite an experience. So I've been desperate to see it again ever since. And I must admit, after reviewing
Welcome to the
Dollhouse, it reminded me of Happiness. I thought, I want to dig it out, and I didn't have it, so I did end up buying the old DVD. So not too long ago. So now they've announced the Blu-ray and stuff like that. I'm a bit gutted, but I'm still. But I figured when it came up, well, I've got the DVD. I can watch that. It's not a visually incredible film or anything. I'll live with it. But the features would have been nice. But I'll live and I'll let someone else do it. So you guys are fighting over it. But,
I feel like we do that sometimes. We're like we both want the same titles. But I think it's just it just goes to show how amazing some of these boutique releases are lately. Like we're spoiled for choice. It's like we're getting some amazing releases. But I've watched Happiness. It's one of those films that the first time I watched it, I watched like a DVD rip on YouTube because I just couldn't find it anywhere. Like I couldn't find usually my best bet is like I'll either check eBay or God forbid CEX's online website, which is so hit or miss sometimes buying from us. But it was out of stock everywhere. I was like, I really want to watch this film, and then someone had uploaded it. It looked terrible, but I could still like make the film out, and I was just like, this is wild. And ever since then, I've been like, someone please pick it up. I think one of the first conversations me and you ever had, David, we were talking about like the work of Todd Solondz through Messenger, and I think we spoke about Happiness as well. And I was like, someone needs to release this. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, yes, I need it right now. So I'm beyond excited for that. I'm also excited for, this is a US only release, but the Greg Araki Teen Apocalypse trilogy. I don't know if either of you have ever seen like a film from Greg Araki. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I've seen
know the
Greg
name, I've
Araki.
not seen them. Yeah.
amazing filmmaker, and this collection, I believe, I might be wrong on this, but it's essentially like the three features that he's most known for, which are Nowhere, The Doom Generation, and I think one's called Totally Fucked Up, which I haven't seen that one, but I've seen, or I haven't seen Nowhere, but I've seen The Doom Generation, which is outstanding, like amazing. Every Iraqi film I've seen, I've loved. He
Have you
directed
seen The Living End?
no, I really want to
That's
see
a
The
really
Living End.
good one.
Wait, maybe The Living End is in this box. I can't remember. It's either The Living End or Totally Fucked Up, but one of those two is included in the set.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like a 4K Blu-ray combo pack, and I think Nowhere and the Doom Generation are on 4K, but whatever the third film is just Blu-ray only because they only had like a 2K source to work from. But I think I might end up importing that just because I love the guy's films. If you ever want a comedy, because most of his films are incredibly bleak, like really like Mysterious Skin is like one of the most harrowing watches I've ever seen. But if you ever want a light-hearted film, you should check out his film Smiley Face. I revisited Smiley Face a few days ago, and it's one of the funniest comedies I've ever seen. It came out in like 2006, right after like Mysterious Skin and all of his like hugely acclaimed films, and it's just like a weird stoner comedy he made out of nowhere, which is just such a departure from all of his other films. And it's about this woman called Jane who's like constantly high, and you just follow her for like 80 minutes as she messes up every single possible thing she did in her life. It's very funny. It's like kind of like Beau is Afraid, but without like the scary surreal nature, just like a very comedic surreal nature. But yeah, no, that I'm really excited for. The 101 Films announced Ensomdi from Denis. I can't pronounce his surname. I'm really terrible. But the Dune guy and Blade Runner, Sicario, Arrival guy. I've never seen that film, but I'm kind of hit or miss on his recent output, but I love Prisoners. I love Sicario. I think Enemy's fantastic, and I've always wanted to dig into some of his older films. I know the BFI released Polytechnique, which I still haven't seen. So as soon as I heard that they were announcing that on 4K, I wanted to grab that.
I've heard this is one of his. I've heard a lot of people think this is one of his best. I think. I've got it on DVD. I think, but I've not watched it yet.
Yeah,
I've heard very good things about it.
It was kind of like a surprising 4K announcement, especially considering like 101. They're very.
Oh, I didn't realize it was 4K.
Yeah, because they haven't dived into it much. I know they did the Alligator Collection, which is from like the Shout discs, and what else did they do? Is that the only 4K they've done?
I think it might be the only one.
Yeah, because I can't think of anything else. Because I know initially when they announced that they were releasing Memento, they said it was going to be a 4K release like 2-3 years ago. And then when the Blu-ray came out, it was Blu-ray only. So people were like, are they going to dive into 4K? But this has never had a 4K anywhere before. So I'm really interested to see what the team over there do with like a brand new scan. And then finally, I've got 2 more films, 3 technically, but one. We've got From Beyond on 4K, which I'm so excited for. 88 films are releasing that over here. I missed out on the Snazzy Vinegar Syndrome like slipcover release and everything, and as soon as I heard they were porting it over, I was like, yes. I have the old Shout release, but which used to be back in the day, it used to be worth so much with the slipcover. Now not so much because there's been like countless newer releases, but I really want to check that out. I'm probably going to just check the Shout release out. If I like it, I'll buy the 88 films release. And then we have Hundreds of Beavers that's getting a Blu-ray. Hundreds of Beavers, I really love that film. I actually like reached out to the producers of that film. I was like, I really want to cover this film, guys. Can I cover it? And they were like, yeah, sure. And I did a piece for Blueprint Review. They're just basically like, hey, let's get this UK distribution, and it now finally has UK distribution. So I'm beyond happy about that. And it's getting a theatrical release on like the 9th of July.
Yeah, it's really soon. Yeah.
My local's playing it. I'm gonna go screening because I need to see it on the big screen, even if there's not many people there. I just want to see it again because it's such a unique film. It's so funny. Like I'm one of those people who I don't laugh while I'm watching films that often by myself. I usually like to, like, if I'm watching films with like a friend or like with an audience, I find myself laughing a bit more. But I was just sat on the sofa. I was just laughing my head off at this film. I was like, this is so funny. So I can imagine it will be even better with a crowd. And then finally, oh my god, Boy Kills World is getting a 4K. I love that film so much. I'm kidding. I don't.
I didn't think you liked that one. I thought it was getting mixed up.
No. I'm that is getting a 4K. I'm not looking forward to that one. That was a joke one. I think Boy Kills World might be my least favorite film of the decade.
Oh wow.
I didn't like it, but I know a lot of people seem to like it, so I'm very much in the minority.
Pretty mixed, I think. Yeah, it's pretty mixed, I think. Yeah.
It's I think it's just a lot to do with kind of the tone of the film more so than anything. And I read a bit into the production of the film, and it just kind of seems like it was just like completely like reworked in production. And I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years' time the people who worked on that film were like, yeah, some shady stuff went on, because originally like Bill Skarsgård was doing his like inner monologue kind of voiceover, and then they replaced him with H. John Benjamin, the guy who voices like Bob from Bob's Burgers and everything. And I was like, in the film, it's just so baffling. Like it just doesn't work. And I'm like, this is a weird film. And then even then, it just dives into like it's really gratuitous in a way that even I don't like. And I'm usually a fan of like films that kind of go like extreme almost. But in the case of that, it just kind of felt like it was reveling in violence in a really, I don't know, like just a very unpleasant kind of way, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. But yeah, it's getting a 4K if anyone's excited. Oh,
I was intrigued when I first heard about it, but then I don't know. But the trailer I wasn't sure about, and then when the reviews came out, there's quite a lot of weak ones, and I've kind of given up on it. I might watch it one of these days, but.
Maybe if you can get like a review, if they like send out screeners or something, because
we actually got an offer. I think Andrew Speaking is supposed to review it, but I think it's been and gone, so I don't think he received it.
Okay,
I'll chase him up. Me cracking the whip if anyone. But yeah, cool. Excellent. Well, so an hour in.
Oh,
don't worry. Let's talk about what we watched. I was all set originally. I was like, I'm gonna watch something really classy this time, and I did watch something classy. I watched 3:10 to Yuma, the original, and it was amazing. But I watched something else afterwards, and I was like, oh no, this film was crazy. It's like I want to talk about this instead. But 3:10 to Yuma was amazing. But I cracked open a DVD box set I've had for a long time, the Asian Zombie Collection. I'm not a big, massive horror guy. I'm not a big zombie guy, although some of the classics I do love. But I've had this for a while, but I finally cracked it open. But this really surprised me. Basically, I know a lot of people will be listening and only viewing, but you get a cover like that. The film is Wild Zero. So Wild Zero, you look at a cover like that, it looks like absolute chaos. You've got zombies gnawing at people, you've got blood everywhere, you've got bizarre kind of quotes on here like trash and chaos, the greatest psycho of them all, brutality of screen, the real speed and stupid zombies, this rock and roll jet movie, whatever that means. And it's and so I was expecting utter. I'd heard there's some friends of mine have talked about this, saying it's absolutely crazy. So I've got to watch it. And on the back it's got zombies munching on guts and things. It's so I was all set for utter in kind of, it's a Japanese film, utter insanity. And yes, to an extent it did deliver that. There is it is wacky, it's crazy, it's got zombie gore in it. Although a lot of it is more exploding heads with CGI, and this is 1999 I'd like to say, but I'm gonna double check. Might be earlier. My computer internet's very slow. 1999. But the CGI blood and stuff's not that bad. But what really surprised me about this film is, because I say it was slightly less wild and crazy than expected, although it is still pretty crazy. But what really surprised me is in the story, is the actual how the film kind of plays out. So it starts out quite a traditional kind of zombie movie sense. You're introduced to a few different characters or little groups of characters, and they're all converging to a place. and whilst you're setting up the characters, you see these. Oh, sorry, you see these spaceships flying overhead, and well, you see them right at the start, and it doesn't really explain it, but the spaceships seem to be turning people into zombies, and all of a sudden, zombies start attacking everyone. It's just a classic kind of zombie setup. But what surprised me is how, especially for a film that's this kind of crazy, and especially for a film that's ostensibly a vehicle for the group Guitar Wolf, which is led by the guitarist who's called Guitar Wolf, and then there's Bass Wolf and Drum Wolf. That's just the name of the band. But yeah, but they're a bit of a cult kind of punk band in America. It's not American, Japan. What am I talking about? But yeah, I mean, the film even opens with their gig and stuff, and all this crazy gunfight that happens after their gig, and it is kind of their. But it doesn't. Although it starts with them, and they appear throughout the film, and they kind of save the day. He has the hero moment at the end, without spoiling anything. But it also then it jumps around to some other characters, and that's where the film gets surprisingly, which surprised me really. And chiefly is if I can remember the names, I've written them down here somewhere. But there's no, maybe I haven't. But anyway, but there's a kind of young guy who's he's a massive fan of Guitar Wolf, and you see him at the start going to the gig, and he wants to be, because the Guitar Wolf, they're these punk rockers, and they dress like 50s rockers, which is quite a popular kind of style, I think, in Japan back there. You see a lot of that in the kind of bands from there, and so he's got his slick kind of 50s hair and things, and he wants to be cool like them. And what happens at the start of the film, he accidentally kind of saves them from getting shot by these gangsters, and but then they kind of go their separate ways. But the Guitar Wolf gives him this. He says to it, he's thankful for him helping them, and he says, "Right, he gives you this special whistle. He's like, whistle when you're in help, and I'll come and help you." But anyway, that's by the by. But then you follow this younger guy as he goes off on his own little story, as well as following these other people. But what happens is he meets this girl in this garage, and he hits it off. And when the zombies start attacking, he goes back to save her, and he kind of going around with her. But then, I mean, this is going to kind of spoil the film, I guess, but I want to talk about it, so I don't care. But switch off for a minute or two if you don't want it totally spoiled. But this is the middle of the film. It's not like an end spoiler. But what I really was not expecting, and what is done surprisingly well, is there's a moment, as you say, these couple, you kind of see they're hitting it off, and it's a nice bit of chemistry on there, especially quite well done for a kind of low budget, crazy zombie musical kind of thing. But yeah, they have Ace, that's what he's called. Ace is the guy. He has a really heartfelt scene where he opens up to Tobio, and they have a bit of a moment, and they kiss and all this kind of stuff. But then what happens is Tobio then opens up and reveals that Tobio is a man. He's transgender, and initially, when that change hits, Ace runs off in a bit of an Ace Ventura sort of way. He's like, "Oh, that's disgusting." And when that first happens, you think, "Oh, okay, yeah." But what happens is he goes away for a minute. He thinks about it, and but then he realizes, he comes to his senses, and he actually, weirdly, this brings back the rock and roll thing because the kind of message of Guitar Wolf is written down somewhere here, and this is the kind of message they have by the end of the film, is that rock and roll has no boundaries, nationalities, or genders, and all this kind of stuff. That's the kind of things that he said at the end, and he goes back and saves her, and he realizes, no, I love this person, I care for this person, and he goes back to them, and it's just absolutely not expecting it from this crazy kind of weird zombie movie. And it's really sensitively done. As I say, he initially runs off and you think, oh, but no, it's done because it kind of shows him coming back and think about it. It's just really really, and it works. And there's also another bit of a relationship in there. There's this other kind of bickering married couple, and there's a nice little touch with them at the end. And again, it brings in this kind of peace message, this progressive message of like late 90s Japanese horror movie that I just was not expecting, and
that's amazing.
And it delivers it, and it really surprised me. So yeah, it's well worth a watch. And it's still, if kind of progressive relationship dramas are not your thing, it still has plenty of zombies getting blown up. It has a crazy bit where he uses a guitar to destroy a massive spaceship, and crazy stuff like that. So it's got everything. So I really enjoyed it. I wasn't
Amazing.
expecting that much other than loads of blood and stuff, and it's highly recommended. I don't know how easy it is to get hold of these
I
days,
was
but
going to ask, yeah. Like,
it's an Arts Magic. Arts Magic. Back in the 90s, used to release a lot of really interesting East Asian films, especially Japanese films. They kind of had a reputation of not always treating them that well. Like they didn't remaster them or anything though like that. This is the earlier days of DVD days and things, and it was left the thing anyway. So their DVDs don't always look great, but they release some amazing stuff, and they helped get some quite interesting things out there. They used to release a lot of the is it Sakamoto's films? They did like Bullet Ballet and things like that, and they've also released some very obscure kind of older Japanese films that I've watched from them that still haven't kind of seen the light of day on Blu-ray or anything like that. So they were a great label, even if they probably just didn't have the money to kind of do fancy remasterings and all this kind of stuff, but they did good work in terms of getting unusual titles out. So I need to check out the other film in the Asian Zombie collection now, which is Junk. I don't think it's supposed to be quite as good as Wild Zero, but we shall see.
I'm adding Wild Zero to my list right now.
Yeah, I've totally spoiled it, I'm afraid. But
no, that's okay. I just
wanted to talk. I was just really like knocked to six in the kind of change that it took, but it felt organic as well. It wasn't chucked in there. Like you could tell it was part of the kind of whole message they're trying to get across.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, cool. But Andy, what did you watch?
Well, I kind of went the opposite direction to you. Last time I was on there, I did an old John Ford classic, so I thought I'm going to do something a bit more recent, a bit more light-hearted. So I thought I'd do one of my favorite Batman films. And I'm not a big superhero guy or even a big Batman guy really, but this year there's a couple of Batman adjacent things coming out. There's the Joker sequel, and there's the sequel to the Batman, and I hated the Batman.
Oh,
I absolutely loathed it. I thought I hate the way that they just suck the humor out. They like any film that doesn't at least have an awareness that the premise of Batman is inherently ridiculous and it's taken so seriously. It's like, how do we make a great Batman film? I tell you what, we'll take all the humor out and then we'll make it go on for 3 hours.
I will argue super quick. I think the Batman is quite a funny film. I do think it has moments of humor. Like, has everyone seen have you seen it, David?
I haven't seen the Batman yet. But if you spoil it,
I'll just say I don't even know if you're gonna remember this, because it doesn't sound like you had a great time with the film. But there's like one of the early scenes of the film is just Batman kind of just appearing at like a crime scene, and the whole joke in that scene is just he keeps standing in the way of people who are trying to get like the crime like analysis stuff done, and I'm like, that's kind of funny. But there's a great joke. Do you remember the thumb drive bit?
I don't remember much apart from my own pain.
There is a joke involving a thumb drive, and that means 2 different things that I thought was quite funny, but I can completely get what you mean about it being overlong. Like it does not need to be 2 hours and 50 minutes at all. Like I'm quite a fan of that film, but I do feel the pace whenever I'm watching it. I think that's like the biggest issue for sure.
Obviously, it wasn't as hilarious as my favorite comedy, Bringing Out the Dead, but. But I thought I would do a Batman from a recent Batman, one that not a lot of people have seen, which totally embraces the humor. So it's Batman: Return of the Caped Crusaders. It's an animated film that came out 2016. It came out, so not that recently, but. And basically, it's going back to the 60s Batman. So it's essentially a parody of a parody, because I mean, obviously the 60s Batman had its tongue firmly in its cheek, and this just pushes it a little bit further. But they got the original cast, so it's Adam West, it's Burt Ward, and Julie Newmar all come and reprise their roles. And it's a lot of people criticised it because they said you can hear how old they sound in it, but it's strangely it's exciting to hear them do it again, but it's strangely poignant as well. It's like these these animated versions of their younger selves with their older voices coming out of their mouths. But mainly it's just full of great gags. It's a really easy watch. It's really Adam West said he had a blast doing it. He was asked how long it took him to get back into character. He said about 20 seconds. Yeah, the animation it's really nice sort of fluid animation. It's a bit sort of Saturday morning cartoon, and that sort of light absurdist humor of it is that same sort of feeling. In fact, it does have a couple of like slightly adult jokes in it. It's a 12, so and some of the jokes are things that you've seen before, like they do that thing. I've seen, I think The Simpsons did it as well, where whenever they throw a punch, you get these onomatopoeic words, and they get gradually weirder and weirder. You get things like crunk and sprang and things like that. And but it's just there's just a lot of joy behind it. Yeah. So yeah, I thought with these more serious Batman things, and people taking Batman so seriously, I thought it's a good one for. I mean, one of my favorite Batmans is the Lego Batman as well. So that's where I am with it. There is also a sequel, which is straight to Blu-ray, Batman versus Two-Face. I watched it the other night. It's not quite as good, but it's interesting because it's more plot driven. They actually there are some good jokes in it, but the jokes are pushed back a bit, and there's a bit more plot. And William Shatner is the voice of Two-Face in which he actually does a really good job. So they're quite. I got that for about £3. You can get hold of them quite cheaply, and awesome. I think the average Batman fan who has a bit of a sense of humor will probably enjoy it.
Cool. I must admit, I've got the. I do find the DC kind of animated films can be really good. I'd say there's like Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh, that's my favorite Batman film.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. I picked up this set as well. I think I've not had a chance to watch them yet, but I've seen some of the Superman ones as well. I do tend to find, because they're closer to the comic book, they're just more fun. As I say, I think there's a tendency to make the films just too serious. And I think it's okay to take your story seriously, but I still think you've got to have a bit of humor in there. I think it just in general, I think even like a drama I think sometimes you need some of that humor to make things feel real in order to get invested in it. It's like, that's my whole argument against like Oppenheimer, for instance. It's just such a miserable film. I just didn't like it. I think to care about someone and their story, you need a little humor, even if it's a depressing story. I think life, if something bad happens to you, maybe it's a British thing, but you still got to joke about it in a way. You still got to take the piss a little bit. It's and if you don't have that, it just doesn't feel real, and it's just miserable. It's not. I just don't want to watch it. It's
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, do you know what one of my favorite examples of this is, weirdly, and it's kind of one of the most depressing films I've ever seen? Have either of you seen Manchester by the Sea?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, that film is bleak as can be, and some of the sequences in that film are like absolutely tragic, but it also has a sense of humor about a lot of the scenarios. Like, I remember there's a scene, minor spoilers for the first act of the film, but it's essentially about well, I'm not gonna reveal what happens later in the film, but a character loses his it's his mother, right? Like, Lucas Hedges loses his mother, I believe, and then why am I forgetting the Affleck, Casey Affleck, his uncle basically goes to look after him and everything, and he, after like losing his mother, he's kind of just like very angsty teenager type thing, but he's like repressing all of these feelings deep inside. And there's a sequence in the film where he just goes out in the middle of the night, goes to like a fridge, opens it up, and he sees a chicken, just like a cooked chicken, and loses his mind because he starts seeing like the dead body. And Casey Affleck's like, are you just gonna freak out every time you see a fucking chicken? And that scene just like makes me like lose my shit, even though it's like really bleak, and obviously the subject matter that it's touching on is like the loss of human life, especially to somebody as young as him. But it injects that humor in a way that feels very real. Like, sometimes you're gonna like quip about like the absurdity of a situation, like somebody loses losing their mind over a frozen chicken sounds really funny, but it's also really upsetting in the film. And I think, yeah, no, I completely agree that like if you've got to kind of have that balance. And I was the same way about Oppenheimer. I think it might be Nolan's worst.
Three people here who don't like Oppenheimer.
I think we are the three.
Yeah, I don't know anyone else who does. It's like the inverse of the film's cult following. It's the anti-cult following. Yeah. Okay. My film. Oh, okay. So I had so many films I watched recently that I wanted to touch on. Some of them weren't physical releases, so I avoided them. I saw Kinds of Kindness yesterday at the cinema, the new Yorgos Lanthimos film. It's so good. It's so good. And I can't wait to see like the audience reception to the film, because I'm calling it. General audiences who go into Kinds of Kindness are probably going to say it's the worst film they've ever seen in their entire life. They are going to hate it so much. I watched it in a cinema with 3 other people. I actually had to travel because none of my local cinemas were like playing it. I had to like hop on the bus for ages to go to a like cinema quite a bit away just to see it. There were 3 other people in my screening. They didn't laugh at anything in the film, and I was kind of like trying to repress my laughter throughout the film at these really dark and bleak moments. And the final shot of the film is something that made me want to like burst out laughing really loud. But as soon as I laughed, everyone else in the cinema was just stone cold silent. I was like, you're not the right audience. This film is not for you. So yeah, Kinds of Kindness was great, but the film I have decided to talk about. I asked my brother the other day. I was like, "Hey, do you want to watch a film with me?" I picked up this film from a seller on Marketplace recently. I've never seen it. I've heard it's pretty bad, but I've heard it's kind of fun. And my brother keeps watching films that are apparently bad with me, and then we have a good time. We watched Spiritual Kung Fu, the Jackie Chan film, and had a pretty fun time with that. We watched when I was reviewing The Lawnmower Man for Blueprint Review. We watched that, and I actually really loved The Lawnmower Man. I thought it was great, but I watched the director's cut, which was great. And this one, I think it pushed his limits, and he was like, "This is terrible," and I just had a blast with it. And I've noticed that you've got it marked as watched on your account, Dave, on Letterboxd, and that is Godfrey Ho film Undefeatable.
I'm trying to think. If
Cynthia Rothrock film.
Oh, it must be under a different title. Yes, I've got it. I'm trying to remember if I watched it now. I must have done.
You've rated it a 6 out of 10 on Letterboxd. It's I'll talk about it. Maybe the plot will kind of like remind you. I don't know when you watched this, but I think
it was a video weekend one.
It's okay. So for context, Godfrey Ho, the director of this, I think it's Godfrey Ho.
Yeah.
He is a filmmaker who's kind of known as like one of the ultimate Z movie filmmakers, Z movie film. It's like so bad it's good films, and the majority of his films, he'll film one film. It'll be like martial arts oriented, and then he'll take the footage from that film, find other films, splice his footage into the films, and then call them his own films. And they'll have names like Full Metal Ninja or Ninja Terminator, and they're just like really awful films from all accounts, from what I've heard. And he'll make 15 films out of shooting one low budget film or something. But Undefeatable is one of his rare exceptions where he actually fully filmed the film himself. Breaking new ground for him, and it's incredible. It stars Cynthia Rothrock as Christy Jones, and Christy is a street fighter. She basically wants to partake in street fights across where is it set? I don't even think it ever mentions where it's set. It's just some American city. And she's basically getting involved in street fights. And if you know Cynthia Rothrock, she's kicking ass in the film, as she tends to do. She gets in trouble with the law. And there's this like police officer who has a crush on her, and he's like, "Hey, you need to stay out of these street fights, Missy." It's like really, really like misogynistic and terrible. He's just like she's just kind of like an object for him to win. Like it feels like throughout the entire film, like he's got no personality, the police officer. But anyway, as that's happening, the reason she's street fighting is because she wants to get her sister through college because her sister's completely broke and she's basically earning tons of money through these street fights. And the college that her sister's going to also houses this woman. Or I say houses this woman. There's another woman who's going there in like a separate class, and she's speaking to the therapist at the thing. Also, it just sounds like I'm speaking utter nonsense, but the film is kind of nonsense. But yeah, so there's this woman who's at the college, and she's talking about her abusive spouse, and she's like, "Oh, he's so horrible. He hits me, and he's terrible." And the therapist convinces this woman to leave her husband after, like, if he continues to do this stuff. So after a really horrific like assault sequence, she's like, "No, I'm done. I'm gone." This drives the husband over the edge, and he spends his entire life. By the way, this guy's called Stingray. I'm not making this up. He's called Stingray, and what he decides to do is he spray paints his hair red and searches the entire town for anybody who looks like her, so he can bring her back to him. So any woman with similar hair or like a floral dress or something, he'll basically be like, "You're my wife," because he's completely delusional, and he kidnaps and murders these women because she left him. And then he snaps out of it. He's like, "Wait, you're not my wife," and then goes on and completely does the same thing time and time again. What happens is he mistakes his wife for the sister of Cynthia Rothrock. He kidnaps and kills her, so now she wants revenge. And the film is basically her trying to get revenge on Stingray for killing her sister. I'm laughing so much because it is like, on all accounts, the acting is terrible. Half of the shots don't even look in focus. The sound effects are like hilarious. The story is nonsensical. It's got like the recipe of like a terrible, truly terrible film, but it's so entertaining. And I will say, in terms of like actual highlights for the film, it has amazing fight choreography. Like, there is a sequence where Cynthia is trying to like avenge her sister, and she like encounters this guy in like a warehouse, and they're fighting on like, you know, those like oil canisters, like oil barrel type things. They're like fighting on top of those and jumping from oil barrel to oil barrel, like kicking ass. And I'm like, this is insane. I was like kind of terrified for like their like safety. It's just one of those things where it's like, even if you're getting stunt doubles to do this, it just looks so dangerous and so crazy. But yeah, the fight sequences are absolutely amazing in it. This is the Vinegar Syndrome 4K release. It's so funny that they even released it on 4K, but Vinegar Syndrome, they do. They release some interesting titles on the format. And no, it's just absolutely like entertaining from start to finish, even if it is of questionable quality.
I remember I was looking it up trying to think, because in my head I hadn't seen it, because I know I've got it, but actually no, I looked at with Letterboxd, like, yeah, I've seen it in 2021. It wasn't even that long ago. But no, but looking at it on IMDb, what I did recognize was a picture from, I think it's from the final fight between, and it's not Cynthia Rothrock, it's the two guys.
Yes, it's
the I can remember that being crazy.
Oh yeah, the final fight is
the bonkers one.
Ooh.
And is that the one that I think it became like a meme, or I might be thinking of a different fight.
Yes, it was uploaded to YouTube, like, because
maybe not a meme, but yeah, famously ridiculously over the top kind of villain. Just like,
the final fight scene in this film is one for the ages. Like, it truly is just absolutely bonkers in every sense of the word. Yeah, it was. They even mention on the back of this Vinegar Syndrome release, but it's like an infamous, like, kind of like viral fight sequence. But because in like early YouTube, like 2000 and I don't even know, like 2008, 2007 or something like that, someone uploaded it as like most batshit fight scene of all time, and it got like 17, 18 million views on YouTube. And I didn't even know about that before that. I had to like research the film after watching it, and it just like, that fight scene might not even be the best thing in the film, which is saying something, because there are just so many, like, it's just kind of like 18 different films meshed into one. Like, yeah, I really want to see more of his work. Like,
have you seen, I was gonna say, have you seen any of his he was famous more for the ninja movies. He made a load of ninja movies that were just crazy.
I really want to see
it. It was just bits and pieces from random ninja movies, and he just filmed, it was almost always Richard Harrison. He filmed Richard Harrison with a ninja mask on and to splice in between them, and it's just bonkers. They're really bad, but they're a lot of fun. I think I've got a few on DVD, like Undefeatable I had on some old DVD somewhere. Actually, it might have been on VHS. No, oh, I can't remember. I've got some of the Cynthia Rothrock ones on VHS.
This was my second Cynthia Rothrock film, because the only other film I'd seen was Yes Madam or Yes Madame, the Eureka release, which was amazing. I went through all four of the In the Line of Duty films over the past like year or so when Eureka released them, and I was like, she kicks ass. I need to see more with her in. And
I like her, yeah.
Yeah,
And
she's great.
China O'Brien's worth watching. It's not as action-wise, it's not as good as the others, but because it's is it a co-American or fully American? I can't remember. But it shows that she can. It shows that she's not a bad actress. I mean, it's not like Oscar worthy or anything like that. But she's given a lot more to do in that film. Whereas in a lot of the pure Hong Kong films, she was always just this kind of tough badass. She'd just run around, keep fighting people, and that was about it. But she's given a bit more to do, and I do think she's got quite a charisma about her. I think I enjoy watching her on screen, even if it's not just about the fighting. So I've always got a lot of time for her.
I'd love to, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, as well, it's like she's very active on social media as well, and she seems like a really genuinely nice person. She's very enthusiastic. She does all these kind of shows and stuff all the time. So it's worth following her. She seems like a top lady.
Yeah, she seems great, and I really love you were talking about her range. She actually has like a sequence in this film. Like I was like joking around about the absurdity of like the killer abusive husband character in the film, but like when she finds out that like her sister's like been murdered, essentially, she has a scene where she breaks down. It's decent acting, like pretty good acting for like a schlocky like kung fu film.
And she was not from an acting background. So I think she is a martial artist, and that's how she was brought to Hong Kong to work on those films. And it kind of got her famous. She was not an actress originally, so it's to be able to kind of build that just through working in these kind of supposedly cheesy kind of movies. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just I thought it was great, and I great for varying reasons. Like genuine quality is probably not one of those. Like I think the film is kind of naff in a lot of like screenplay areas. Like some of the content is a bit like, oh, okay. But like when it comes to like the actual fight choreography, when it comes to like Rough Rock and everything, there are genuinely good elements to the film, but it is also kind of a so bad it's good, like pop it on with a couple of friends, have a laugh type film. But no, I was blown away by it. I thought it was really, really fun, and I tend to recommend schlocky films whenever it's my pick, and I figured I'd continue with that tradition. One day I will recommend some like prestigious art house film. I will talk about like, it's so funny because like Andy, from all accounts, like I think the 2 times you've been on, I've spoke about Undefeatable and like was it like Burial Ground?
Burial Ground.
And you're like, what? You're probably like, what is his taste in film? I want real quick, Andy, guess my favorite director of all time.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Based on the films that I like, I want you to
I'm not sure actually.
I'm trying to think of someone schlocky, someone.
I'm thinking Italian. I say Argento, maybe. I don't know.
Okay. Argento is a good.
Well, I've not heard you just talking about him that much, as he's probably not. But I don't know.
If I will say, if I had to choose a favorite like Italian filmmaker, which does dive into the like schlocky aspects, I'd say Fulci. Or like he is my favorite Italian. But my favorite director of all time is David Lynch. I love David Lynch. Like he's my favorite. Like I think he's amazing, and I love like Eraserhead is one of the best films I've ever seen, and I love so much of his like out there crazy work that isn't like goofy schlock like this, but I also have just such a love for like, I don't know, like so bad it's good films, but most of the time I can actually find like genuinely like amazing things in these films. And like I'm a defender of like the Super Mario Bros movie from the 90s. I think that's like a genuinely quite good film, which is not something many people would agree on.
I was saying, even when I was a kid, I was a bit like, what is this?
even Bob Hoskins doesn't agree on
it. Dennis Hopper hated it as well. It's one of those films like I think like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is one of the like great like horror satires of all time. I think it's incredible. Like I can dive into so many of these like schlocky like trashy films and actually kind of take something out of them where I'm like, no, this is actually a lot better than people tend to give it credit for.
Yeah,
and then I'll watch Burial Ground and I'll be like, this is terrible, but I love it anyway.
there's still an art. That's the thing. There's still an art to making those kind of things and to making them good and making them work, because there's not, because there is bad schlock and there's good schlock. That's the thing. There's if and for me, I think it's just as admirable if they're out there to make something that entertains in certain ways. If it hits those entertainment levels, it's a craft. Maybe an art might be less of a might not always be the case, but definitely craft I think is important.
Yeah.
And they've been given a job to do, and they've just done a really, really bloody good job of it because they've done what they want to do. And I think that's just as admirable as an art house film. If something doesn't have to have deep, dark sort of moving themes or anything like that. It's about how what it's aiming to do and how well it does it.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about like the Hollywood features and everything, and like on all accounts, those films are like sloppily made and poorly constructed, but the passion's there, and it's like they're so entertaining. And it's like if you want to watch like an action comedy, they succeed at the action, they succeed at the comedy, and they're just like really like inspiring almost. Just it's like anyone can make a film as long as they're like determined to do it, and as long as they've got the passion, anyone can make something. It's just like I don't know. You can find like grains and like diamonds in the rough, like I guess people say, and stuff out of anything really.
And I think it's having the ability to kind of you've got to take it in context. It's being able to take the films in context. I think sometimes people don't always do that enough. You need to know where it's coming from, and I think it's another reason why I like having the extra features and things like that, because you can really appreciate then where it is coming from. You don't always need that to you can appreciate it anyway from just watching it, but it can help us definitely with the Wook Hollywood films. Without knowing the story behind them, there is no way anyone would appreciate them. You'd find them funny, like silly, like but there is so much more to it.
100%.
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of the perfect reason for like supporting physical media and stuff, just kind of like learning more about all this stuff. And I mean that's what our site's all about. Like it's just about kind of talking about all of these like films that get like these snazzy Blu-ray boutique releases, even if it's just like something that is considered like you bought Manos, The Hands of Fate, one of the notorious all-time bad films, but I'm assuming that Blu-ray will have like extras, maybe. I don't know.
That's why I got it. Really, it's got loads of stuff on there. That's the thing. It makes it more interesting and more enjoyable in many ways. Not always. Sometimes you can get extras that are just thrown on there. I'm not a big fan of backslappy kind of just actors saying, "Oh, it was amazing to work with so and so." So and so. It's like who cares? but it's like anything really. You'll get good and bad. But if it really. But some extras are just fantastic. Like we mentioned, I mentioned this last month, but like things like that alligator interview that I just didn't expect, and that was really good. The one with Bryan Cranston. That was just stuff, little gems like that. And occasionally there's some films where the extras are better than the film.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, like that's like if you like people who read my reviews on the site, sometimes I'll watch a film and I'll be like, I didn't really care for the film, but like I'll check the extras out. Like recently, like I didn't like Fearless Hyena Part 2 very much. I know it's notoriously terrible, like a slapped together sequel in name only thing, and I wasn't really a fan of the film itself for obvious reasons. But the extras themselves are great. Like there was like an interview, I forget the guy who was interviewed, but he does this like 25-minute overview of like how he discovered the film and like why he loves it so much. And it's like, even if I don't like this film, this guy has such an appreciation for it that kind of like enlightened me in like his kind of sense of why the film was so good. And obviously with these 88 films releases, like the Frank Jen commentary, he's so good. He's so good. I kind of feel bad whenever I request an 88 films release because I'm like, David probably wants to hear this commentary. But
I don't know how Anna Venema and Mike Leader as well, because those three show up on so many discs. I don't know how they have the time, because there's so much research must go into them, because they just have so many facts and things about everyone that's in there, and it's just bonkers.
Like, have you? Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
I was just gonna go back. Sorry, I was just gonna go back to what you just go back to the original point, I think, as well. The other film that that jumped out for me in that sense, that recent one that jumps out for me was recent-ish, is Spookies by One One Films, because the film is not a good film.
No.
But the making of explains why it's not a good film, because it got butchered, and like they couldn't do what they wanted, and it all got changed. But beyond that is again, the story behind it is fascinating and really really interesting. Like what happened to the production history of that film is crazy, and it really tells that well. So that was one case where like the film, I'm just looking at the review now, the film I gave like 2.5 or something like that. Because like half of the film is quite good, and then half it's terrible, which again is explained.
Makes sense in the production.
But the extra features gave like 5 stars because it was amazing. Like
that documentary. Did you have you watched the Vipco documentary?
Yes, that as well.
That is amazing. Like it's one of those, like the documentary on like a technical sense is a bit like sloppily put together, but like as a whole, like I never heard of Vipco before that.
Really?
It blew my mind as like someone who now collects all of these releases. And I was like, wait, there was a label who was like illegally bringing films into the UK and releasing them. I was like, what? And it's just like, I remember on my YouTube channel, at the time, I didn't even really do like actual Blu-ray reviews, but I picked up that 101 release and I was like, I have to talk about this. This is like, even if the film itself isn't, like you said, the film itself is just, it's very, it's like...
It works in some moments are pretty cool, quite fun, but then it just gets really stupid.
Yeah, but like the documentaries, both documentaries, but the one about the film and the one about Vipco as well, they're just like, they're like incredible documentaries, and it's just kind of eye-opening, like, A, finding out about the production of the film, and B, just having this kind of like look into a completely different world. I know Vipco, like Spookies was one of their titles. Like I forget the guy who ran Vipco, Michael Lee or something like that. Something I can't remember the guy's name, but I'm pretty sure he even funded Spookies partially or something along those lines. But that disc is amazing. So
it's a funny one, Vipco. Yeah, because I knew Vipco from their later years when they were doing DVDs, and they had a quite bad reputation then, because although they released a lot of kind of Italian genre movies and horror movies and things that a lot of people were excited about, they were almost always cut and not in good shape. So they always had a bad reputation for me. So I actually found the documentary quite interesting to hear about how kind of the positives and how they got started. And although they did have it was a bit of a crazy story.
I love the segment in the documentary where they talk about the police knocking on... I'm going to say Michael Lee, I think that's what his name is, the guy who ran Vipco, but they were knocking on his door when he released Shogun Assassin. And he was like, oh no, this is like dangerous to UK individuals. And I'm like, Shogun Assassin? Like,
it was a crazy era. The whole video nasty thing's bonkers. Have you got the...
Band of Video Nasties? No, Band of Videos.
There's two of them. I've not seen the second one yet, but the first one, it's really fascinating. Really digs into it.
I own that documentary twice because it's on 88 Films' Night of a Demon release, but it's also included on the censor second sight.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of something different. I'm thinking of maybe it might be the same one.
It's like the David Gregory documentary, right? Like the Severing guy, and it's like 2-part documentary talking about the video.
Yeah,
because it's released. It's on both of those releases as an extra for some reason. But I mean, they were both like censors, obviously touching on like the BBFC and like film censorship. And Night of a Demon was a video nasty, I think. I want to say it was. I think it was a video nasty.
Probably.
But yeah, there's also. Wait, are you thinking of those like big video?
I'm thinking of something different. The big collections with
there was like 3 parts or something, and they had the trailers and all.
They have loads of trailers. That's what I'm thinking of. Is that a different documentary?
They're different. Yeah, but I want to see those because they're kind of expensive now, aren't they?
Yeah,
I think they've steeped up in price a bit. But yeah, no. Do you own Censor or Night of a Demon?
I own Censor. I've not watched it yet. Night of the Demon, is that the 80s Night of the Demon, not the
classic film, the 80s like schlocky Bigfoot film. Like
I've not seen that. I don't think I've got. Oh, I do have that. Okay, yeah, I do have that.
This one here.
I've got it. I do have that. I've not watched it.
Yeah, both of these releases have that documentary. But yeah, if you've got like an hour and a half to kill, it's so eye opening. It was kind of I had a fascination with like the video nasties boom, but I hadn't really like researched into it. So watching that documentary kind of opened my eyes to like, wow, the 80s were just crazy.
I mean, I was really young at the time, but I do remember once I was getting to be a teenager and stuff, that a lot of the films were still banned. It eased off a bit by then. And actually, it was more when I was really getting into films. That's when a lot of the titles started to get released. They'd finally start to get released. Like Texas Chainsaw probably came out on legally finally. I don't know how old I was, but I was probably like 18 or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I can remember when I was a kid. I can remember a friend of ours bringing a dodgy copy of Evil Dead over, but I don't know if that was. It might have finally been released then, but I might be wrong. I feel like it hadn't quite been legally released yet. So I do remember the kind of murky waters of it. But as I say, and I've never been a huge horror guy. I do like it. I enjoy horror movies actually, but I've never been quite as like dedicated, like not a hardcore kind of watching all the. I'm a bit I can be a bit squeamish. I tend to like. I love fun horror movies more. I like comedy horror.
Oh, comedy horror
and horror that's just so over the top. It's just kind of fun. I'm not really. If anything's really nasty, I don't do this kind of torture porny sort of thing, and I don't do anything that's just relentlessly grim and horrible horror. I just don't enjoy it. I just don't want to watch it.
I know you picked it up, but I'm going to advise not watching Ebola Syndrome.
Oh, okay. I thought that looked so bonkers. I thought I'd be all right.
It's very fun and very funny in places, but like you have to just be in the mindset that this is a category-free film, like through and through. Like it might be the most extreme cat-free film I've seen because, like, for a quick bit of context. Oh my god, Ebola Syndrome is basically a parody or like a satire of the category-free films, where it's like, oh, these films are so controversial, and Herman Yao had directed like The Untold Story and I think Taxi Hunter at that point, and both of those. Well, I know Taxi Hunter's Cat 2, but it's sometimes mislabeled as a category-free film. But he directed those and kind of like caused a bit of a storm, especially for The Untold Story and its like third act, which is so Ebola Syndrome is him like, oh, you want me to go crazy? Okay, I'm going to give you the most extreme thing on all ends of the spectrum, and it's ludicrous. Like it's unbelievably like tasteless in every conceivable way, and still to this day I cannot believe that the like BBFC did not censor it. Like I think that being uncensored in the UK, but like something like Cannibal Holocaust not being is just it blows my mind. Because
weirdly, the only thing they ban these days is pretty much the only thing they ban these days is animal cruelty. Like it's weird. It's anything else goes these days, which is unusual. It kind of makes sense, I guess, because you can argue that everything else is fake, but if they've actually harmed an animal, that's fair enough.
I don't really mind when films are cut for animal cruelty, which I know is like a big contention for so many people because they're like, we want the original uncut.
Yeah, I'd rather them just cut it and release it than just never release it.
Because it's like I'm all for like artists kind of making whatever, even if I don't like it or anything. Like if someone wants to make something, as long as it's not genuinely harming someone, whether it's a human being or an animal or anything, any living being, essentially, I'm all for it. But there are times where I'm like, yeah, Cannibal Holocaust is a film that I think I've said this before on the podcast, and I'll say it again. It is the most fascinating film to ever exist, in my opinion. I don't really like it, but I do not hate it either. I'm like so in the middle on that film, but I think it's so fascinating from what it's trying to do, what it's trying to say, but also just like how contradictory it is from like, oh yeah, we're going to criticize like all of these things, but then we're going to partake in these things. Like it's a fascinating film, and I'd hate to live in like a country where we just couldn't access that whatsoever. But I also don't really see a problem with like cutting like a monkey's head being like bashed in or something, because I don't want to see that. It's just really unpleasant, and you can still convey the message in that film without the need for like those sequences.
Weirdly, it seems like occasionally they still slip through though. It's a bit weird, the BBFC. Like some of the Hong Kong action movies, they've got quite a tendency to be not very nice to animals. That like it's mainly chickens and snakes. They're not
Yeah,
very nice to chickens and snakes in a lot of those films.
It was one of those Jackie Chan films I watched.
But they don't get cut. It's
yeah.
weird. I don't really understand.
I couldn't understand that because it was either a fearless hyena or a spiritual kung fu. But there's like a training montage with Jackie, and he just like snaps the neck of a chicken, and it was like it ruined my mood. I was like, everything before that was like really fun and like lighthearted, and then that just comes out of nowhere. I'm like, what?
In a lot of the, I think in a lot of the kind of Taoist kind of monk. Magic kind of kung fu ones, they quite often do that. I think it's part of it's just part of traditional kind of culture. That's what they do. I don't know if they can get away with it because it's just what happens. But I don't know. Yeah, I always get surprised that what I watched recently that I was surprised didn't get through, or at least I assume didn't get through. Is I was sent the Beast Fighter films from Eureka. Because that was really interesting because Eureka obviously have always been a UK company. They've started doing American releases, but it tends to just be like dual releases, and sometimes UK only release. Then this all of a sudden was a US only release, but with a name like Beast Fighter, I thought, well, it's gonna obviously be animal cruelty. But I was sent the disc review anyway, and well, it's a tricky one. Karate Bear Fighter. There is no way any animals got harmed in that film because that is not a real bear. That is absolutely not a real bear. It is a guy in the worst bear suit I've ever seen. So no bears were harmed in that film. But Karate Bullfighter, there are some shots where it looks like it's a real bull, but the scenes where he's kind of actually hurting it, it's clearly not a real bull. So I'm surprised. I don't know. I guess that one is a bit I guess maybe if I looked closer there might be some scenes that they weren't treating it very well, but still again I'm surprised it's not as obvious like as some of the things that have been banned for animal cruelty. So it's really odd. It's, as I say, it's not they're very strict on it but not totally strict on it, and then sometimes overly strict on it. It's weird. It's really weird.
The BBFC, like in terms of like the whole censorship thing, it's so interesting to me, and it's like something that I wish we got like more documentaries or just like more interesting like in-depth bonus features about, because I'm really curious on like what the criteria is for all of this stuff. Like what's too much. I know I Spit on Your Grave is still censored over here. It's a film I never want to see, so I'm not really that bothered. But like it's like I think that got a Blu-ray release a couple of years ago, and it was like I think they got most of the cuts waived, but it's still like a minute or something censored. And most recently, and I feel dirty even having this in my collection, but the BBFC flat out refused to certify an 88 films release. I don't know if you heard about this a couple of years ago. So it was the first ever release that 88 made, US only, but they made it region free. And the BBFC refused to release this film. I wonder if you'll know what, I'm not even going to say the name, but take a guess why. Oh, is that reversed?
Oh, okay,
if you can, this film, the BBFC rejected it in 2021 because they said it was so distasteful that it would potentially seek out hatred or something crazy along those lines because of like the Nazi exploitation angle of the film. And like as soon as I heard about that, I was like, I kind of need to see this. Just
they are so they are still keeping. I was about to say, in my mind, it was only really the animal ones, but it sounds like they are still keep holding some other stuff back.
Yeah, it's it is one of the video nasties apparently, like according to the back cover from 88 films. Yeah, but no, it's one of those films that, like I don't know when, if ever, I'm gonna watch it, but I was like, it's so rare for a film to be like banned by the BBFC at this point, or just like refused certification. And it's just it's an interesting thing to me because we're basically like one of the only countries in the world that kind of has this. Like in America, you can release anything unrated over there, and it doesn't.
I think I've heard. Is it Australia? I think I've heard Australia surprisingly.
Australia too. And I know Germany sometimes has like a few things where,
which is weird because you get some really messed up horror movies from Germany as well.
Oh yeah, it's just that they're so kind of across the board. But God, in terms of tangents, this is like the craziest one we've ever been.
I'm looking at my watch now. We're getting it. epic as usual. But I don't mind. I like talking about movies.
Oh, me too. I have a blast. I'm so sorry for like talking for so long. By the way, Andy, with like about video nasties and stuff. Like, I'm so sorry for like if it's too much.
Oh, I'm gonna try and bring something classy next time. As I say, I was all set to watch talk about 310 to Yuma,
which is a great film.
But it was really good. I've not seen it before. I'd seen the remake before the original,
Yeah,
which made it a bit of a weird experience because it wasn't that long ago since I saw it, so I kept comparing them. Because I actually the remake's not bad. It's but yeah, yeah. Anyway, I've started to review it now. Stop. We must end it. It's late. But, cool, but excellent. So yeah, thank you guys. It's been a pleasure as always.
Great.
And hopefully we'll have you back in the future. But what I will say, I did hint at this earlier. I haven't quite decided what to do though, so this might be a pointless discussion. But there are a couple of interesting things that will happen in about 3 weeks' time, and I kind of want to bring it into the podcast possibly because basically my wife and kids are going away to Finland for a week, and I'm not going. I'm staying home because we're going away like another week afterwards, and I've got quite a lot of work to do. And I was like, my wife Anna, she goes to Finland to see family, and I was like, well, you go and see your family, take the kids, have a good time. I'll stay home and get some work done. So yeah, that's what's happening. So that means with less parental responsibilities and things like that, it means I'm going to watch a lot of movies. I've tried to keep a week clear. I've tried to keep the week clear of review movies, although as usual, I'm so greedy. I've had to squeeze a couple in there, but it means I'm going to be able to double bill it every night. I think I'm going to be able to get a lot of things in. And plus it means the weekend, the first weekend when they go, I have contacted Andrew and Justin and possibly Bill to do a weekend of trash.
Awesome.
So I'm gonna have a lot of movies to talk about. So I'm tempted to. I don't know how to do it. I'm tempted to either, if Justin and Andrew are up for it, is to just record one on the weekend of trash, and that could be July's episode, or I just kind of we do a normal episode, but I'm gonna have a lot of movies to talk about. I'll try and whiz through them. But yeah, but I want to kind of talk about my movie marathon. I'm gonna have a bit. I'm determined to have a bit of a marathon and
awesome.
Watch like I don't know, like 18, 20 films or something like that, and just to have a proper blitz through my collection, and talk about that. So yeah, no promises yet. I haven't totally decided what I'm gonna do, but yeah, I'm hoping to bring my little marathon in on the podcast. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I'm excited for this. Even if like I'm usually always down for the episode anyway, but like honestly, if you're free and you can do it, I'm more than down, providing the other guests who ever join are, I'm more than down to have a bumper episode if you want. On my YouTube channel, I'm not kidding. I've done live streams with people and I'm like, okay, yeah, do you just want to stream for a couple hours? We'll talk about some films. I had multiple live streams that went on for over 8 hours. So I was just sat here and I was like, yeah, I'm not saying we do an 8-hour podcast, guys, but I'm saying I have the determination to do longer podcasts if need be.
Awesome. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I think it would be nice to watch them. I need to plan what to watch. I need a bit of also because it can take an hour or two to watch sometimes.
Ebola syndrome. I'm kidding. Don't do Ebola syndrome.
I mean, I tend to have a tendency to pick films that I've had gathering dust for ages, but I might try and do a mixture and tackle some that I've just keep avoiding for whatever reason or just haven't got around to, but maybe get some recent ones. Because I think the problem I find with doing that is the ones I buy more recently are ones that I've been excited about, I've read about and be like, right, we don't want to see it. But then because I've got such a ridiculous backlog, I kind of lose that excitement. So I kind of want to. I might watch some of the more recent purchases whilst it's in my head. But as well, I do want to definitely tackle some of those gathering dust old ones. I also might want to tackle some longer films. I have a tendency. My kids are going to bed later and later these days, and I get tired. And if I ever watch one of my own collection, I quite often just look at the run times, and if it's over 90 minutes, I'm like, so I might. There's a few like long, like 3 hours and stuff that I might try and squeeze some of those in. The big one for me that I'm hoping to get is the I've got one they called now. Japanese movies that are really long.
The Human Condition?
Yes, the Human
Oh,
Condition.
awesome.
trilogy.
I don't know how I got that.
Yes.
It
I
was just
don't-
like long Japanese films.
I don't know about watching the whole trilogy. Might just eat up too much of the week, but at least watch the first episode because they're all. I think it's 3 hours per episode.
Yeah,
But they're supposed to be amazing. Everyone who's seen them just raves about them, and so I feel like I really should because I obviously anyone who reads the site knows that I'm a massive fan of Japanese cinema, and that is a big blind spot for me. So I want to try and tackle at least one of those.
Yeah.
That will be one of my aims. They're not supposed to be much fun. We're talking about films that are a bit grim, but they're supposed to be amazing. So yeah, hopefully get those watched.
Oh, awesome. I'm excited for this episode. Oh,
Yeah, it'll be a long one. But cool. Anyway, yes, speaking of long episodes, I'm going to let you guys get some sleep. And yeah, I usually edit this afterwards, but it's 10:30. I'm like, no. And it's my birthday tomorrow, so I might not edit it for a few days, but we'll see how we get on.
Yeah.
But cool. Thanks again for joining me. And yeah, I hope to see you on the show again soon.
Awesome.